All right.
Aljo back here. It's finally fight week. We are back here. Yep, other side, sorry. Here in Boston, a lot has happened between the win over Henry Cejudo to now in a super short amount of time. What does this fight week feel like compared to others during this title reign, and how would you describe the last 3 months?
Uh, the last 3 months have been pretty good to me. Been relatively quick. Just trying to get the body as healthy as I possibly could, so I can make this event happen for the fans. And I'm super excited about the opportunity, man. It's a great eyeball event. It's gonna be a lot of eyes watching this one. Dana did a great job of stacking the card, and I know Boston hasn't had a pay-per-view event like this in a very, very long time. So I'm excited to be headlining for a second time in a row. It's all about opportunities, man. So I'm excited about it, and I can't wait to go out there and put on a show.
You're obviously very motivated for this fight. I'm getting some similar vibes to the rematch with Piotr Jan. I'm sure it's not exactly the same, but how does this one compare to that fight? And do you feel like there's a bigger chip on your shoulder for this one?
No, I mean, all these challenges they're relatively the same. It's just different puzzles, different pieces, having to game plan the right way, making sure you bring in the right training partners and whatnot. Those are literally the main things, the main formula for a successful training camp. So I think we did a relatively great job with that. I think I'm in a really good headspace, and this guy's gonna need lightning to strike to beat me on Saturday night.
Sean may not like you, and I'm sure the feeling is mutual, but he does respect what you have accomplished in this sport. He says you're the greatest bantamweight of all time. He said that multiple times. What have you made of his resume to this point and what he has accomplished thus far?
I mean, his resume is it's okay. He did what he was supposed to do with the talent that was put in front of him. The same thing I have done over the years. The difference is that the caliber of opponents and opposition that I face is night and day. I don't think there's anyone in the UFC other than Piotr Jan that he's beaten that's still in the UFC. And you can't say the same for my resume and the opponents that I face over the years. Other than that, he's a tough competitor. I know he's done his homework. He's going to come prepared. He's got a great team behind him. And I just look forward to smashing them and showing them that there's levels to this.
He believes you're giving off nervous energy heading into this fight, that you seem nervous. How would you describe your energy and your vibes? And even if there is a perceived nervous energy, is that necessarily a bad thing?
Nerves are good, but I don't know what nervous energy is that he's referring to. I think he said he saw me on TV and I looked hella nervous. I thought that was pretty cute. They're showing the highlights of the fight, and I'm getting excited about it. I don't know if that's nerves, but we'll see who's nervous when I step in that octagon with him and when he sees how much I fill out. And when I put my man strength on him, he's going to have no choice but to fold.
Last thing for me, potentially your last fight at 135 before you move up. If all goes well on Saturday, do you feel like you are leaving this division in a good place with Merab, Sean, Henry, Sandhagen, and some of the other veteran and up-and-coming fighters climbing the ranks? And who would you match Merab up with if you could wear the matchmaking hat?
It's like that commercial, "Are you in good hands?" You know, the Allstate commercial. So I think he's in very good hands with Merab. If there's a matchup, maybe it's Sandhagen or Henry Cejudo. Those are the only two that really make sense at this current moment. We'll see how Cheeto does with Pedro Munoz and go from there. Obviously, Sandhagen beat him, but Sandhagen's getting surgery. So it's a very interesting position. And obviously, Umar is out as well, getting surgery, just having his surgery, I should say. So I think it's Merab and whoever he feels fit.
Aljamain, Sean has said leading into this fight that, he believes the weight cut is going to affect you. Henry Cejudo said the same thing. Do you think these guys really believe that the weight is going to compromise you, or is it just that they need it to sort of rely on something to motivate themselves?
This is what I've been having. So I don't think there's any weight cut that's going to be an issue for myself, you know. So if these guys are banking on me missing weight, over what history, what track record do I have of ever missing weight? So if you want to bank on, he's going to have a tough weight cut. Henry did the same thing. I wonder where's Sterling. He's probably still cutting weight. Like, dude, you're a flyweight coming up to 35, you know? Life is good for you. So, of course, it's going to be a little bit easier for him. It's always tough, but I make the weight like a professional, and I always show up on championship weight, and I think I'm under. So if that's what he's banking on, good luck. Don't take that luck to the casinos because you ain't gonna win. And I can't wait for Friday. Weigh in, and then we're just one step closer to smashing this dude and going out there and having my victory tour.
There's a lot of talk about Sean O'Malley's star power and how he's got the it factor and he's like this guy that the UFC can see putting money behind. Do you see an it factor in him, or do you just think it's the machine pushing him that's given him this sort of platform to say he has that it factor?
I think if anyone had the same Snoop Dogg promoting their fight after coming off the Contender Series, I think anyone could have become a superstar like that overnight because it's hype. It's hype, especially when you're going out there and you're fighting other guys that should not be in the cage with you. It's easy to stack up the resume and get these highlights. I mean, I'm finishing guys in the top 10, top 15. There's a significant difference in doing that against caliber opponents versus guys who just aren't in the show anymore. There's a reason why they're not in the show anymore. I'm not saying that they can't get back, but I'm just calling the facts how it is. The it factor, I don't know what it is. I don't get it. I mean, he has a flashy style in the sense of he gets knockouts, but the guys he's knocking out, I mean, for the casual fan, that's cool. But for the hardcore fans who actually tune in and watch the sport, I think they're smart enough to understand what's what, and you can kind of pick and choose. Like, yeah, he's had an easier path, and he's made it. He did what he was supposed to do with the competition that was put in front of him. But let's not make any mistakes about it. Like, you put that against a lot of these other guys, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to highlight them. Petr Yan's going to highlight them. Corey Sandhagen's going to highlight them. Song Yadong's going to highlight them. Marab's going to highlight them. I'm going to highlight them. So what are we talking about? So give me those opportunities. My third UFC fight, I fought a ranked opponent who was ranked 6th in the world. I have not gone back since. So I think that speaks volumes in itself, and that's what gives me the confidence coming into Saturday night at UFC 292, and I can't wait to go out there and just smash the teacher's pet hype machine and go on with my day. And then I could start to really promote my Funk Harbor, and I got a bottle for Dana too, so it's gonna be a good time in Boston.
Just a bottle for Dana, or?
Hey, it's a limited edition run. We only got 4,000 bottles, so there's only so much I can hand out for free in the very beginning. But we'll get the ball rolling a little bit more, and I'm excited to share this with the world. This opportunity coming out here to fight Sean in Boston is another opportunity for me to build things outside of the fighting because obviously, like you guys heard me say, fighting doesn't last forever. I'm still undecided what exactly I'm going to do when I do retire, but I want to make sure I enjoy this moment while I can and take as many of these opportunities while I can and be as active as I can. And being back here 3 months later, what other champion is doing that, you know? So I'm just looking to go out there and put on a show, man. I want to make sure the fans get their money's worth on Saturday night.
Aljo, over here to your left. I saw a recent interview with Sean where he said, it was about a week ago, he said that there's going to be a big mental part of the game, and he goes, you're not ready for the mental war. What's your response to that?
Petr Yan for 1 year. I think that was pretty mental warfare right there. So, and it wasn't just the fans; it was himself also talking some shit. So, if that's not mental warfare, then I don't know what is. I look forward to the games. He was quiet this entire build up to this fight. The only time he made some noise is when he came in the octagon with me, and you know I showed him who was the boss that night, and I'm gonna show him who's the boss on Saturday night, August 19th. We'll see what mental warfare, man. I got my mantra, man. Too tough, too strong, too quick, and I can't be broken. So if none of these guys were able to break me over the years, I don't know what in the world makes Sean O'Malley thinks he has something that he can say that would be witty enough, clever enough, or that can knife through my mental mindset. Hey, whatever makes him sleep at night, man. If that's what's going to make him feel comfortable making that walk, he's going to get a reality check as soon as that cage door locks. It's as simple as that. And the clock is ticking.
So I saw him in an even more recent interview where he kind of took a different side, and he talked about, you know, him being a striker, you're known for your grappling, and he basically admitted if it stays on the feet, he wins, almost admitting that if you take him down, he loses. His coach kind of said something similar. What's your response to that?
It's weird. It's weird, man. I don't take anything that they say like I take it with a grain of salt, man. At the end of the day, I know he can grapple. I'm not saying he's completely awful, but I think think we all know that there's levels to grappling. I've shown that in the past. I've defeated his grappling coach and outpositioned him and took him down multiple times. Two-time ADCC world champion. What the hell is Sean O'Malley going to do? What, he submitted Takanori Gomi and everyone's like, oh. Dude, come on, man. Come on. There's levels to this. I'm still grappling with bigger dudes. I'm having my way with them still, and I'm cutting weight, you know? So if he thinks I can't strike, a lot of other opposition thought the same thing, and I think I did a pretty good job of outstriking them. And I think the stats speak for themselves. So it's up to me to just go out there and just do what I do best, bring the funk, and leave this guy face down, ass up.
But one thing about you that, the people who don't like you or don't give you a lot of credit, they'll say, won the champions by disqualification.
Oh, they love me, man. They love me.
Then split decision. Then a hurt TJ Dillashaw. Then another split decision. Do you think if you dominate Sean that those people will finally give you your just due, or do you think they'll come up with some other excuse and not really give you your credit?
They're going to say O'Malley wasn't credible enough. He shouldn't have been in there in the first place. When I fought Cejudo, if he wins, Cejudo's back. He's so great. But if he loses, he was gone for 3 years. The guy's been training. He's been coaching the world champions, the who's of the divisions. And then with TJ, I fought with a torn labrum multiple times, 7 professional fights. I've won every single one of them. You can't use that crutch when you want to. I knocked out Cody Garbrandt with the bum shoulder. Yeah, I could knock out Aljamain Sterling too. It's a different matchup, dude. I kicked the shit out of his arm, and I think that's what probably dislocated his shoulder to begin with, and then I took him down, and that was the fight. You come in, and I can only fight who the UFC puts in front of me. It's not my fault you want to come in thinking that you can beat me with a bum shoulder. That's on you. That's not on me. And it's not my fault the judges gave that a split decision with myself and Piotr Jan. I think the first round, I outstruck him by 7 strikes. I landed a big elbow in his head. He stumbled backwards. I landed the most significant strike in that first round. I should have 10-8'd him in round 2. And round 3 was up for a debate for a 10-8 as well. Round 4, I should have taken his ass down and not try to get style points. And I tried to jump on his back and ride him like a pony. Pause. And I fell off the top, and he was able to get back into the fight. But what did he honestly do? I won those fights. You can make whatever. All the judges said this. Cry all you want, man. I love the tears, and I'm going to be laughing all the way to the bank. So line them up. I'm going to keep knocking them down and do what winners do, and that's win.
My last question. You've been in main events. You've defended your title. You've gone 25 minutes. All things that Sean hasn't done. How much of an advantage is that?
I think it's a big advantage. I think the biggest advantage coming into this is the level of competition I've faced to date. Like I said, Sean's got some serious skills. He's got good feints. He's long. He's rangy. I think he's going to be the first opponent that actually has a longer reach than me. I'm 71. I think he's 72. I've acknowledged all these things. He's got good front kicks. He does good spins. I hope he does spin so I could take his back. So he does a lot of good things really, really well. And it's a dangerous test. But at the end of the day, I think my competition is going to show. My fight IQ is going to show. And we'll see where he's really at. This could be an opportunity for him to solidify himself and shock the world. And this is another opportunity for me. So for the UFC, it's a win-win. They get a huge star in Sean O'Malley. I win. I think you get the eyeballs that Sean O'Malley brings. And I think it just welcomes the entire world now to the Funk Master era. And I think that's what it's all about. Finish this guy. Do it in style points. Call out Alexander Volkanovski. Go up there. Chase more history. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I feel sorry for the people out there who never want to challenge themselves or do great things. I think that's the beautiful thing about this sport and the UFC giving us this opportunity. We can carve out our path and our future, and I think I've been doing a hell of a job doing that, and I look forward to bringing in more good times.
Aljamain, we're here. One of the concerns that you had when this fight got announced, it wasn't that you didn't want to fight O'Malley, you didn't want to fight in Boston, but that August 19th date, since you've been very active. And you didn't really know how your body was going to hold up and if it was going to be fit for that date. Now that the date is just a few days away, can you talk about your health and your body and how this quick turnaround was for you?
I feel good, man. I think we gave ourselves enough time. The way we did our training, we worked around the things that were lingering from the last fight and the fight before that, and we healed up as best as we could, and I think we did a pretty damn good job. So maybe I'm like Wolverine. I don't know, but I feel good, man. I'm excited about this. I really am. And I'm glad we were able to have a sit down with the UFC brass and figure out everything and make everything right. And now we have a huge fight for Boston, for the East Coast, to keep the bantamweight division moving. And I don't know. It's there's a lot to take in with this, and it couldn't have come at a better time. I think keeping me more active sooner rather than later just keeps me a little bit sharper. And to already have gone in there for 25 minutes, the matchup with TJ traveling and doing all these extra things, I think it's going to just more than prepare me for the night on August 19th. Like, I've been here before. I've done it. I just need to go out there and prove it again, what I know, what my team knows. And I don't want to say shock the world, but I don't know. I do feel like maybe people are doubting me still. I don't know. This is a good opportunity to really just solidify my legacy and everything that I've accomplished thus far.
Is Saturday night your last fight at 135 pounds?
I'm gonna wait till the fight's over, see how I do. I do plan on thoroughly smashing this dude up, something serious, and after that, maybe I'll drink a couple Happy Dads. They'll give me a sponsorship instead, and maybe the Nelk boys will be hanging out with me and dropping Sean. We'll see, but we'll see how this fight goes. I do my job. I do it with stop points. I'll be looking at and having my sights set at 145.
And right now, Volkanovski has no title defense booked. A lot of people think that Ilya
Perfect
Topuria is
timing.
next. Do you think you can surpass him and end up fighting for the belt next at 145?
I think the timing could work out. It just really depends on how this fight goes. I mean, maybe Sean is so well prepared that this fight ends up becoming a war more than I expect it to be. You know, I'm expecting the best Sean O'Malley to show up. Proper takedown defense. I'm sure he brought in great guys. Even though he said he hasn't, I'm sure he's not that dumb. I'm pretty sure he brought in some high-level training. He's brought some good wrestlers in. And I know some of the wrestlers that he trains with. So we'll see. We'll see how the fight plays out, and we'll go from there. I don't like to count the birds in the bush, man. I like the birds in hand. So let me deal with this, get through this guy the way I think that I can, look good doing it, and then from there I think I'd be hard to deny.
And just last one, since you have your eyes on 145 and that's like something you want to do in the future, if Volkanovski does end up defending the belt against Ilya Topuria, how do you see that fight going, and what do you make of Ilya Topuria, who's been a rising contender in that division, and it seems that he's the next guy in line?
I think Ilya is really, really good. I think he's dangerous boxing. I think that's the difference between him and Volk, but Volk's got some really good feints, footwork. Ilya's more stationary, typically tends to just walk you down, put the hands on you. He's got good anti-wrestling. So I am interested to see how that fight goes. They're both relatively the same height, same size. I do lean towards Volkanovski because I think he just mixes it up a little bit more than Topuria. If Topuria adds in those kicks, I think it makes his game a little bit more well-rounded, and it brings a different wrinkle to the game other than just training for boxing, where Volk just has to stay on the outside, touch him up with calf kicks, inside leg kicks, clinch him up the way he did Jose Aldo when they fought. And that can make things tricky for Topuria. So Topuria has to do his homework if he wants to get his hand raised in that matchup.
And Aljo right here. You mentioned you expect to see the best Sean O'Malley possible on Saturday. With all the hype and all the Dana White privileges, you called it, and stuff like that, I guess how good do you feel like the best Sean O'Malley is?
I mean, I've dealt with difficult guys who are hard to take down, guys that get used to me. You know, I've trained with the Boshrot brothers, both of them. Julian and Rosa, really big frames, a little bit heavier. Some of these other guys back home from Long Island, from the Cerro Longo fight team. And I like to think I'm doing a hell of a good job in the sparring sessions with these guys. And I would imagine O'Malley won't have the same looks that I bring. And obviously I won't have the same exact looks that he brings. But that's what makes this matchup very, very interesting and intriguing. You know, can I get inside without getting sniped? And is he as accurate as he thinks he is? And then the other part is, how good is his takedown defense and how much time he's had since his last fight to improve? So I look at all these things. I factor them all in. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be calculated. And when it's time to take risks, we're taking some risk.
Aljamain, you talked about challenging yourself on your journey. You know, it's incredible to think back 8 years to February 2014 and what you've done since then. And then you look at Cody Gibson, who hasn't fought, It's almost been 8.5 years since he last fought in the UFC. I know you guys had your debut together. Can you touch on his Ultimate Fighter experience? I mean, you guys have really unique history that you both had your UFC debuts against one another.
Yeah, we both took the fight on short notice. I was supposed to fight Lucas Martins, then he pulled out. Then I believe I was supposed to fight Brian Caraway. No, actually, Brian Caraway pulled out. I was supposed to fight Lucas Martins, then Lucas Martins pulled out. Enter Cody Gibson. I was drinking a beer when I got the UFC call. I put the beer down, went for a run, and I tried to get as best shape as I possibly could have, cut the weight as fast as I could have, and Cody took it on about 2 weeks' notice, I believe, or something like that. And he brought it, man. He tested me. You know, I did wish I had a full camp for that, but went 2 rounds to 1. I was able to get my hand raised, came out, gutted out that 3rd round, got a takedown, solidified position, got his back. And to see his journey come full circle, now he's back here again, taking on a tough test in Katona, who's also been in the UFC. It's a very intriguing matchup. After my fight with Cody, I ended up going out there to go train with him a couple months later. So we have some history there. I've actually trained with Katona as well in Ireland. So it's an interesting matchup. I do look forward to seeing which guy gets their hand raised. Cody's a big dude for the weight. He's probably the biggest guy I've ever fought to date. I think he's about 5'10", 5'11". And, yeah, man, and he can wrestle. That's the thing about him that makes him tricky. So it's kind of like I've had that experience with these guys. The difference is I'm looking at Sean, and it's like Cody with Sean-level striking and accuracy, but without the grappling. So I'm excited for all these guys, man. I'm a student of the game. I'm a fan of the sport. I literally watch every single card, every single fight, and I try to learn from people as much as I can and try to add stuff to my game as best as I can as well.
Thank you. One last question. I don't know if you're a Rocky fan. I see you a little bit as Rocky, a little bit of Apollo. There's the great scene at the end of Rocky 3 where they train together and they, behind closed doors, have that moment. Ring the bell, ding, ding. You and Merab ever have one of those moments?
We have a lot of those moments. Man, if you guys were able to watch the training sessions, man, we go through some battles. It's always fun having him for a training partner to push me and to get me ready for my fights, and it's always fun to help him get him ready for his fights. Iron sharpens iron, man, and now we got another guy in the UFC at 135 in Pampos. We call him Pampino. You know, he just got a big knockout in 1 minute of the Dana White Contender Series yesterday. So, man, everything's looking good, man. I think that the formula's been working for us. The sky's the limit. And, yeah, maybe we'll have a Rocky moment in this fight with Sean. We'll see. I do think this is going to be a potential fight of the night candidate, but it's my job to go out there and make it look as easy as possible.
My last one, I promise, about Merab, too. It's such an intense moment, and he's such an intense guy and hard worker, and you have that moment with O'Malley at the end of 288, and then you watch the film back and you see Merab in the jacket, Sean's jacket. I mean, you have to crack up, right?
It was funny, man. I didn't realize that was going on. I thought they were just trying to, like, jump on my boy, so I was like, yo, what the fuck? And then I saw afterwards, I was like, oh, he took his jacket, which is hysterical. You know, I thought it looked better on Merab anyway. Yeah, but, yeah, it was a good time. Good times.
Thank you.
Keep it over here, champ. So you were just talking about Pampos, and Dennis Bazuki just got the call up, too. So with all the Law MMA talent in the UFC, what does it mean to represent them as their UFC champion?
It's inspiring, man. It's cool. It's humbling. Just to see where these guys are going with their own journey. I know what it took for me to get here, all the long nights, the extra training sessions, the extra runs, just having faith, hoping that phone call will come, and now they're in the same position, being able to carve out their own path, their own legacy, their own journeys, and they're doing it their way. And that's the most appreciative thing I can say. You know, I didn't necessarily have that coming up, so I try to share my knowledge as much as I can to these younger guys because it goes a long way, man. This way, instead of like trying to figure it out, you still got to do it your own way, but it helps you kind of get a little bit more guidance on which way you should go, who to look towards, who you can bounce questions off of, and really get some proper insight on how you're doing things with your career. You know, I just try to give them as much guidance as possible. 2 guys in the UFC, Dylan Montello, the quiet man, coming up, I think in early October for the Contender Series. Charlie Campbell on the short list. He was killing that guy, Chris Duncan, then kind of got over anxious, got caught. Duncan's doing well in the UFC, so how well can Charlie do in the UFC? We got to kill his row, man. There's so many guys coming out of this small gym right there in Long Island. We don't got the fanciest equipment. We don't have fancy mats or cold plunges or any of these things at our gym. It was just hard work, Long Island attitude, and we just don't give a fuck, man.
Thank you. Aljamain, you talked about Sean's past competition, and with his last fight, you guys do have a common opponent. Was there anything in that fight that stood out to you that you could either hope to exploit or solidified about your game plan for Sean?
Sean's he's got some takedowns. He's got little tricky things that he does. There's not much I could take away. It's a relatively close fight. I mean, he cracked Jan. Jan was able to stay on his feet, make him miss after that. Then Jan does what he does best, the same way he caught me. He kind of lulls you to sleep, and then hit him with a nice 1-2 from southpaw and dropped him and beat the brakes off of him that round. There's some openings there for the striking. Obviously, I'm not looking to sit there in the pocket and trade with Sean. I don't think Sean even would want to sit in the pocket. He's more of a touch and go kind of guy, kind of similar to myself. So there's some things that I see that he does well, some things that I do very similar to him, and it's how can I exploit that? If I were him, what am I thinking that someone's looking to do to me? And then if I'm the opposition, which I am, how can I capitalize on this? And what is Sean going to be doing to try to tighten up some of those holes? And that's the best way I can approach the game. So I think it was a good fight. He showed a little grit in that one. And that's really it. Credit where credit is due. He won the fight, not by much. I personally thought Jan won, but he won the fight. I'm not the judge, and he's here.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, guys. I'll make sure I have some Funk Harbor for you guys. Let's go.